Hello all, welcome to the Consistently OK podcast, a podcast where we dive into all things pop culture related from comics to films and everything in between. My name's Luke.
I'm Nick.
Join us every week for a podcast that doesn't set its bar too high or too low, but rather keeps it at a consistently OK level for your enjoyment. I could just start with how it's going, couldn't I? Okay, let's do that then. How is it going, Nick?
It's all right, just plodding on, staying home, writing a lot. I'm trying to finish off the third season of Pneumatic, which is stressful in some ways. I've crossed 40,000 words, which is terrifying to know that I've got one thing that's 40,000 words. And then at the same time, I've got about 2,000, maybe 3,000 words left in season 3 until I'm at the marker, which I need to be. And I've suddenly realized I think I've lost all sense of character in it. I
That's
think
exactly what you want at this stage.
Yeah, I think I've sort of just had the characters interact with the world because I introduced a new setting, and so they're all both of the lead characters are taking in the world, and there's a lot of explanation of answering stuff that's been set up in the first 2 seasons, and that's all there. And now that I'm at the tail end of it, I'm I don't think the two of them have actually just had a conversation between them about any of the events that have gone on. They've sort of just been cool, this is going on there. So I need to
Perfect.
But yeah, how are things your end?
Things are good. Things are fine. It's very much a winter storm in Norway at the moment. I'm battling through it. Good. One day at a time.
Literally.
So literally, yeah. So we're still here. We're still in 2021. We've made it another week in this year. The world isn't over yet. And we're doing another podcast. And this week we're going to talk about the brand new Disney Plus, Marvel, MCU, Kevin Feige series, WandaVision.
Yeah.
Which the first 2 episodes aired last Friday, which was the 15th, I believe. And we're going to go into it. If for anyone who doesn't know about WandaVision or the background of it, just in case you were randomly just choosing any podcast and just jumping in, it's picking up basically after phase 3 of the MCU, where at this point in time, I assume you have seen these films, so I'm going to go with that anyway, that Scarlet Witch is in a bit of a bad place because Vision has been destroyed, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
Thanos ripped the Soul Stone off his head. Was it it was the Soul Stone.
Yep.
I really should do more research into these things, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. So he ripped the Soul Stone head. Mind Stone, yes. Oh, Nick, I don't even like the MCU.
I know.
So he took the Mind Stone, which makes more sense than the Soul Stone, obviously, because it's on his fucking head.
Mm-hmm.
So he takes that and he crushes it, and Vision just goes all dark, and that's it. And Scarlet Witch is very angry. She's got reason to be angry, because not only is the love of her life dead, her brother's also dead. She's lost her accent as well at some point during this whole thing.
Yep.
So anyway, there was supposed to be some other stuff going on, obviously, in the early stages of phase 4. We're supposed to have Black Widow, which got postponed due to COVID, which is going to come out soon. I think maybe at some point Winter Soldier and Falcon was going to be first up as the first series, but that also got delayed. So we landed on WandaVision first, and it's a bit of an odd TV show because it's basically going through different years of different television eras, which we'll obviously go into, but for your younger audience, I would think it's probably gone right over their heads. They probably think, what is going on here? And then for sort of my generation, the early 30s, the young generation that I am, I understand it. I've obviously seen shows like that. I didn't grow up watching them, but I've seen them before. And then the older generation would obviously know what it is. But it's odd. It's unique, I think. But do you want to say your first thoughts on the first episode, Nick?
Thought.
Before we go into this, I should stress that if you've not listened to our MCU podcast, Nick is the biggest MCU fan in the world. He loved Civil War.
Yeah,
which is the best. Me being very sarcastic.
It's truly the best film. So WandaVision, the format of it, and again, the visual representation of it, I think is great. I liked that they've crafted a unique version for their first series, for their first kind of foray into episodic storytelling. It's got a real feel to it. I think the thing that struggled is that I'm so used to with TV shows it being so central on character, because you've got 6 episodes, you can explore character in a greater depth than you can explore in movies or like on film. And I think that's something that WandaVision for me lacked. I don't think it quite got character. I think there's a plot, and I think there's a real nice sense of reference and homage to other shows and trying to be authentic to what it is. But I think in doing so, it's lost sense of the characters, and it doesn't have like an emotional core yet for me. I know it's only 2 episodes, but it's a 6 episode season.
That you're correct, and I completely agree with that. Do you think, because this is what I think, and we won't know until we've seen all 6 episodes, but I had a conversation with someone else about this, and that if this was a Netflix series, like, you know, not just always Daredevil with me, but if you could watch all 6 simultaneously back to back, I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you watch them all over 2 nights or whatever, I would wonder if you would have that sense of plot, obviously, because you would have it straight in front of you. The issue is why I think a lot of people have struggled with this. Imagine if it was just the first episode of 30. I mean, it was 20 minutes effectively, because somehow it's like 10 minutes of credits.
Yeah.
But then you're left with a long time to dwell on it, which is the same thing with Mandalorian. Obviously, every episode was a fantastic episode, more or less, and it got rave reviews, and it was something that you knew you kind of were going into, because it's very, very Star Warsy. Yeah. Whereas WandaVision is something completely different in a way, and I think the audience has had too much time to dwell on it already. Even just, where are we now? We're Tuesday, so 5 days removed, and you're waiting. You need almost that 3rd and 4th episodes to really zone in on what the plot is, and hopefully some sort of a conclusion. But both episodes were too short.
Yep.
And I think if maybe they'd put that 3rd episode in there as well, because there were a sign of tweaks that everything wasn't quite right in the 2nd episode, that maybe you would have felt there was more plot, and maybe you would have enjoyed it. I'm not saying that you didn't enjoy it. I don't know if you did. Did you enjoy it?
I'm somewhere in the middle with it. It's not that I didn't. It's not like Civil War. It's
did that make sense? What I said, like because you're not getting all in one go. You're having to wait to get more from it than you would straight away.
Yeah, I think the thing is I was going into it with the mindset of like Mandalorian. The first episode of Mandalorian season 1 introduces you to the characters, introduces you to the way they're telling a story and the format of the show, as well as all the quirks that the show has, whether that's the music cues, whether it's the practical effects, whether it's the use of like the volume thing that they use. There's a real sense that it's like, okay, this is the show. And then the first episode ends with Grogu in the little pod thing, and the last image is the 2 of them like touching fingers, and you're just like, oh, what the fuck? WandaVision didn't have that thing. It didn't have that. For me, it almost felt more like they'd spent so much time crafting this idea of going like, we're going to put them into like a sitcom, and the sitcom is going to change, and the comedy will change, and the humor will change to match those areas of sitcom. At the same time, then I'll drop in little hints as to the bigger picture of things. But there's never a sense of, I guess to an extent, it's a sense of like the stakes. That seeing Grogu at the end of Mando season, like episode 1, you're a bit like, oh my god, there's another Yoda. Like I've never had that thought before. What does that mean? Yep. With WandaVision, the things that they drop in, for me, there's only one that really worked, which was the dinner table scene. And that's because it was slightly harrowing. Like there's an edge to it where it's just like this guy is choking and she's sort of stuck on a loop repeating the line. But the other things like the helicopter and the guy speaking through the radio at her and stuff, none of that really gave me a sense of there's something sinister going on here. There's something that's really not right. It was more just like Oh, curious.
I think I feel a bit different to that, and we're allowed to have different opinions, Nick. That
we
is allowed.
it is.
I thought there were a few kind of sinister moments, like when I can't remember the actress's name. I know she's Aya in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. But when she cuts her hand, and it's obviously there's the contrast in the color with the red. And I think that, like you said, the choking scene, like that scene, the blood scene, not so much like the helicopter stuff, but there were moments like when Scarlet Witch reversed everything, or Wanda, I guess, reversed everything at the end because she knows there's something going on. So that's sort of what piqued my curiosity. And is she part of this whole thing? Is she trapping these people unbeknownst to them, like the character from Captain Marvel?
Yep.
And who else was in there? There was another character. I swear there was someone else. I can't remember who it was. But that she's actually, because the sense is that someone is controlling this whole thing, right? Some company or
sword, right?
Yeah. So the beekeepers, whatever they are, but the beekeeper bit was quite sinister as well. That's the bit. I think that was probably the Grogu moment for me. Is if that was at the end of episode 1, and then it ended there. I think that should have been at the end of episode 1, because it would have been okay. This for someone who's not as interested in it, they may have thought like, oh, okay, that's hooked me into episode 2 now, because you had this sitcom, like canned laughter type thing, and then this here's this beekeeper in, because that was in full color, wasn't it? The beekeeper bit. Or was it in black and white?
No, I thought it was still in black and white.
No, it was still in black and white. Yeah, of course. So I think maybe that could have been the other. But trying to explain, I did think there were a few sinister bits that worked. I mean, I actually think the whole thing worked. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed both episodes. I watched it with my wife, and at the time, she really enjoys the Marvel stuff. I could see on her face it was kind of like, this is not doing it for me, because probably similar to the way you feel, Nick, as well. But it just, I think she was waiting for more. Like she needed something more to sink her teeth into. Like, where is this going to go? Yeah. So me being me, I was trying to defend all of it. Like, it's going to go here, and this is where it's going to be, and la 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 la. But the fact is, I honestly don't know.
Yeah.
There were some Easter eggs that I spotted. One of them, which was the Strucker building, which was on the wall. But then there was another one that I read about, which now I can't remember, which is terrible. When you're doing a podcast and you can't remember. What was it? There were a couple of hints anyway to different things going on in the MCU that have been there. So you just don't know. I have no idea who's controlling it stuff. And I agree with you and my wife as well that there should be, if I'm just rambling now, but
no,
I think the third episode is key. I think that is the thing that's going to make or break it for a lot of people. I think if they shoved the third episode, we'd be having a different talk right now, because I think we would know a lot more that was going on, and we'd hopefully be. A lot of the trailer looks really promising. They have, obviously, there's like a Halloween type episode when they're in their original costumes, which looks really cool.
So, sorry,
there's teaser of twins and everything, which is a big deal as well. So, go, Nick.
I think when you mentioned the trailer there, I was going to say, I think the thing that sort of hit me with it is that I didn't feel like I hadn't seen anything in it that wasn't in the trailer. Like, I didn't feel like I got the surprise. Mando was like, I'd seen a trailer and then saw the episode, and the episode was like ending on that Grogu thing, as well as like a few other little bits here and there. It was kind of like, that was beyond what I expected, in that I didn't expect that.
I think the beekeeper thing, that was the thing that wasn't in the trailer, wasn't it? Obviously, there's something going wrong. Yeah. It just looks like Scarlet Witch is having a complete breakdown in the trailer. Yeah.
But that's the thing. It's like, I said this to you, I think on the MCU podcast, you know, I'm hoping that they go down the route that this is Wanda dealing with grief, that it's like Wanda has done this to deal with her grief of Vision. The first 2 episodes didn't give me the sense that that is what it is. It gave me an impression that it's almost like there is something bigger than her that is part of this. And I don't know if I'm going to like if that turns out to be true, I don't know if I'll like the idea of it, because I think there's a really interesting story that they could have told there. That's the snap happened and everybody seemed to get their loved ones back, with the exception of Hawkeye and Scarlet Witch. They were the two that didn't get their loved ones back, and that's got to do something. Like all these people around you are happy that they're like, my family is back after 5 years. But for those two, you know,
Not.
yeah.
I'm
Like
trying to think about, are they the two at the end of Endgame? I mean, I should know because I've watched too many times, but is it Scarlet Witch and Hawkeye that are on the bridge at the funeral? No, who is it?
they're by a lake. The two
They're by a
of them,
lake. Yeah, that's those two. Yeah,
because he's like mourning
he
Black
misses.
Widow,
Yeah,
and she's mourning Vision.
I think you got to look at the TV show in a way as well, because we don't know a lot that's going on. But it is, I mean, it's clearly going to be a huge stepping stone into the Doctor Strange film, isn't it? That's where they're going with. I would think she's had a. I would think she's dealing with the grief, and I would go off the assumption that it's Doctor Strange is the one who's helping her.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Like that would be really cool. Like if we get to the final episode and it's a case that she doesn't know how to deal with her grief, and so she's gone to him, and he's sort of helping her go through it.
Yeah, like go through the motions, like different lives that she could have Vision.
And if they've done the analogy that it's like each motion is almost like a era of sitcom, that's the way that she's dealing with it, that would be really clever, and I'd give it all the praise, because that is a very unique idea. I feel like Sword is in it for some reason, in the sense that I don't think she would have constructed that.
I mean, there's two. Some of it is a bit too, like with the choking thing. It's either she's dealing with a grief and she's stuck in a loop, which is what it kind of signifies, but also, or something is gone out of sync, and whoever's running it, and it's stuck there, and she's trying to work out if or how she can fix it.
Yeah,
it's odd. It's just a bit odd, but I think that's why I like it. And I think, like I said, if you could see all 6 episodes together, I'm hoping anyway, when we do a podcast to wrap up the season, I'm hoping that we think, those first 2 episodes were a bit 50-50 for some people, but it made sense as it went on. At the MCU, for me, it always tends to eventually get it right in most aspects. So, but it's easy for me to say because I enjoy it so much. But,
yeah, I think there are promising things there. Like the biggest downfall for me, and it's sort of like it's a double-edged sword, because I get what they're doing, is the humor. In that I don't think the humor worked, but I got that they were trying to match the humor to the period of sitcom.
Yeah, so it's strange with Vision, with Paul Bettany's character being Vision, because that's just not what Vision is. Obviously, he's serious, and if the Vision comics that Tom King wrote, that's some of this is obviously definitely pulled from. And just in general comics, it's not what Vision is. So you're seeing a lot of, straight from the get-go, when it's he's going to work and he has to fix his face, and he doesn't eat food and stuff. It's hard to be thrown back when the last thing you saw Vision do was trying, at this point he's stopped Ultron, and he's fought very well as best he can in this the Infinity War and everything, and he's dead basically, and then all of a sudden he's just kidding around, and it's just a completely different character.
Yeah, it is. I saw a review which really annoyed me. I generally don't read reviews for pretty much this reason, but after I'd watched the first 2 episodes, I was just curious to know what critically, like how it had been received. And the review I read for it basically said it's ultimately needed right now at a time when everybody's stuck at home with the world being as it is. And the reason it works so well is that it is such a nice distraction from the world outside. I really disagree with the art should have to do that. How to word this in the sense that I think you should judge it on what it is, not when it came out. I think that's the thing that sometimes gets lost in.
Well, there's no way, you're right. I mean, there's no way that Kevin Feige and the directors and the writers are there thinking this is what the world needs right now, because it's not about that, is it? Because people are going to watch this in, like my daughter who's 4 right now, she might watch this in 1 year's time when she's 5. When she's a teenager, she might watch it, and I'll watch everything with her. If she doesn't want to watch it with me, I'll make her.
Yeah.
but yeah, I don't agree with that either. I think that's a terrible thing not terrible thing to say in a read, because everyone's got their own opinions, but it doesn't make sense with me. And that shouldn't warrant a high score, because that's not the reason.
Yeah, it definitely shouldn't. And the review really highlighted the comedy in it. They said that's the thing that makes it so unique, is that the comedy in it is doing this thing, and what it does is it allows Paul Bettany to stretch his comedic muscle, which is something that they felt he hasn't done enough, that he hasn't explored enough. But I don't think it's the right, because I'm going into it with the mindset of going like, this show should be about somebody coming to terms with grief and acceptance and all this kind of thing. I don't think it's the right landscape to kind of go into it with, we're going to make Paul Bettany's character just pure comedy value. I think that's where he's lost the heart.
But it wasn't funny. It wasn't funny out loud, was it? There wasn't. I don't.
No.
I mean, sometimes I can say things are funny, and I'm just generally smiling throughout. Like you can watch a film, and something like Superbad, whereas like an Anchorman, I was like, well, I literally cried at the cinema when I watched Anchorman.
Yeah.
And then there are things that you watch and you think, oh yeah, it was funny, but you're just smiling. You're not. There's never like a haha moment. And this, I don't think at any point did I even smile like as in, oh, that was really funny, because I kind of got. I looked at it differently. I didn't look at it as a comedy. I looked at it as just like they're struggling in this world, and they're being put through the motions of different eras or different television things. But it wasn't funny. So again, I read a review that said what you said, that it was really funny, basically. And I was like, but it wasn't really funny, was it? It was just they're playing a part. If anything, they're taking the piss out of that era, because it's just, I mean, I remember watching Bewitched when I was younger. I remember my mum was a big fan. I think I've seen some episodes more recently as well, and I thought I can see why it's funny. It is funny in its own right, but the shows that they did in these 2 episodes didn't. They wouldn't make me laugh like, now if I watched them.
The things that I thought were funny were like the modern witty lines. Like there's a point where his boss is speaking to him about something, and I can't remember what it is. I said this to my brother the other day because he brought it up, and there is a line there where his boss says something to him and he replies, and it's like, it was a really witty line because it represents Vision, but then it's such a small moment that that sort of doesn't highlight the comedy. Like the comedy that they've really worked on is stuff like when they have his boss come over for dinner, and there's the rushing back and forth, and WandaVision trying to cook things and overcooking things, and that's the comedy that it's trying to go for, is this like physical.
It's like it's hectic, isn't it? And that's and I can understand completely, because if that was the whole show for 6 episodes, it would be
you'd be like, what?
Shit, wouldn't it? It would just be like, great. But I think the logic behind it is the writers have worked hard to try and throw in that obviously they've got powers and stuff, or minimal in these episodes, but they're trying to hit those notes that those sitcoms used to do. And obviously barely anyone is going to find it funny, really, in that sense, like a ha funny. But I mean, it'll be interesting to see what your brother thought. I mean, I know my brother watched it with his son, and his son, we can use names. Isaac, who's his son. Isaac, as far as I know, he thought it was okay, and he thought it was going to get better and better. But this is someone who has never seen these kind of shows before, most likely. So he probably would have understood. But my brother Aaron, he didn't like it, as far as I'm told. It didn't do it for him. But again, he might be sitting there thinking, this isn't funny.
Yeah.
But there's a bigger picture, isn't there? Which is why I keep going back to if there were 6 episodes in a row, it would probably feel completely different. But you're left for a week now thinking, like, that wasn't funny. Like, what the fuck are they trying to do? And you only get those little beats of sinister points.
Yeah, I think as well, like, to compare it to something like we mentioned, Daredevil again did that so well in its first episode, in that it was just like, here's the tone of the show and here's what we're going for. And I think the tone that they've set with WandaVision is really hard to staple in because of the way they've constructed the show. With them shifting through sitcoms, it's hard to go, the tone of the show is this, because with each sitcom they're going to have to shift, which is clever. And I applaud them for, I'm sure they've been able to do it, where each episode will feel like that sitcom and will match the humor. But if the tone of the show is humorous, which is what these 2 episodes have sort of done, is that they've gone, that's like the connecting theme in terms of the writing, is that it's like both a humorous and sitcoms are going to be this humorous thing. I think that'll pull it down from the idea of having this clinching ending of like it's Wanda dealing with grief, because I just feel like they could have spent 6 episodes exploring a stage of grief in a sitcom.
Yeah.
In the same way that, like, I'm a huge How I Met Your Mother fan, and part of the reason I'm a huge fan of it is that it sort of turns sitcom on its head at times, in that you get the funny laughs and you get the kind of the jokes and you get some slapstick moments, but then you'll get moments of real kind of genuine heart, and it completely flips you upside down. And I think that's sort of what WandaVision sort of needs to give me. And I think that's what the 3rd episode, I almost want it to do, is I want it to go like, here's the sitcom, but then by the end of it, it's flipped upside down. So I'll go, oh my God, that's...
I think it has to, this 3rd episode, I'm going to make a bold prediction that it's going to have to be a bit longer at some point. I think the reason these 2 first episodes were quite short is because I think they wanted to move past that. I think they wanted it there, so it stood out as well, and it set the tone for a little bit of what's going on in a way. And then I think they're going to be funny at the beginning of this next episode, but then it's going to go downhill. The wheels have already started coming off a little bit, and I think it's going to get darker and darker and darker, that by the 6th episode we'll be in a very dark place. I wonder if it would have worked better, obviously apart from the 6 episodes in a row thing, but if they shoved in an episode before what was the first episode, where it kind of showed you exactly what, I mean, without giving something away, but a little bit of aftermath of where Wanda was between this and what happened in Endgame. I wonder if that would have made people feel a bit more understanding of what we're going through. Like, okay, she's here, she's stuck here, these people are doing this. But then, obviously, the way Marvel have wanted it is that you're just throwing into the unknown straight away. Like, this is the first thing. I do think it's a bit of an odd. Obviously, it was going to be different. I would have loved to know how it felt watching it after something like Black Widow and then Falcon and Winter Soldier, because then you would have had like welcome back to the MCU bit, and it's just this, which is probably why as well it's getting as favorable reviews as it is, because it's back, isn't it? It's been a year or so now, so it's like, oh, the MCU is back. But I do think there's a lot. I think there's a lot to look forward to, and I'm looking forward to getting there, because although I enjoyed the first 2 episodes for what they were, I really wanted something else to happen. Yeah. And I felt like we got that a little bit the last 10 minutes of episode 2, which is why I'm looking forward to episode 3, because I'm putting all my eggs in the episode 3 basket here. And I'm going to log on Friday, and it's going to be like 20 minutes long, 10 minutes of credits. I'll be like, fuck.
I think I read somewhere with Feige that the first 3 are 30 minutes and then the others vary. But I think it's only like a spoiler. I think it's... Is
it 6? Is it 6 or 9?
I can't remember.
If it's 9, we're going to have to redo this whole podcast, Nick, because you've completely fucked us by saying 6. And I thought 9. I thought, no, Nick will know. Nick won't let me down. And here we are.
I am Googling now, so let me check. I couldn't remember whether it was 6 or 9. They're not telling me.
Is it 6 or 9? Is it 6?
They don't want to tell me on the Googles.
Well, let's just call it 8.
Yeah, let's go for a middle ground. We've redesigned it. There is now 8 episodes of WandaVision.
8 episodes. The 9th episode, which would be really important, is out of there.
Yeah. But yeah, I think the 3rd episode has to kind of give us something.
Well, now you've said it's only 30 minutes long. It doesn't
9
episodes. Help me at all. 9 episodes.
Okay. So we've got 9 episodes. And yes, the first 3 are 30 minutes.
Well, there we go then. So now I can shift my original thoughts of episode 3 being the big one. And I'll move that to episode 5. So episode 3 will likely be crap. 4 will be all right, and 5 is the one. That's where it's all going to come together, and we're all going to be scared and wondering what's happening. Excited for the future. But
yeah, I think
9 is pretty good though. That makes me feel better about the shorter episodes.
It looks like that was extended. It looks like it was supposed to be 6 or 8 episodes, and then they've extended it since.
I mean, just sounds like lies coming out of your mouth, Nick. Just keep trying to cover yourself. But yes,
it's
I think I
according to
remember that being a thing. I think it was going to be 6, and then they upped it to 9, and then they released 1 and 2 like back to back then because they had up the season. So but I mean, maybe it was supposed to be 6. It could have been 6-hour-long episodes, couldn't it? For all we know, and
they've just split it up for
So
I'm curious about it moving forward. I think definitely halfway, so either the 4th episode or the 5th episode, I think they need to have a really big clincher, just something to kind of give it a spin, because I think there's only so long that you can kind of keep up with here's another week of WandaVision where it's all just.
But I mean, there's only so many errors they could do, isn't there? Obviously, they've got. So they're going into the.
I think it goes right up to the modern day. I think
60s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. So it makes sense that there's so many episodes.
Yeah.
But I think I generally think it's going to be good. But again, I'm a fanboy of Marvel, so it's easy. But I could see. I couldn't argue with people not enjoying it because I could completely see why people didn't enjoy it. I could see why my brother didn't enjoy it, but I'm hopeful that he carries on watching it. I could see why you were 50-50. I could see why my wife was 50-50. Even when I came away from it, because I was so excited about it, I was just not excited. Like I woke up Friday morning, like, oh my God, just gotta watch it now. But it was, I was looking forward to having MCU stuff back, especially after how good The Mandalorian was. I know it's not obviously. Nothing to do with MCU, but it was so nice to have a weekly show.
Yeah.
Because I think we said this before, but something like Daredevil, I think I would have enjoyed it even more if it was a weekly show, because that is a show that could have ended on a cliffhanger, and you didn't get enough time to dwell on it. Because if most people were like I was, I got through like 6 episodes in an evening, and to the point where it's like we could either go to bed and sleep, or we can watch another episode and never sleep. And we watched another episode, and it's and that's what I did with all of those Netflix shows. And I think that is one that could have benefited. Those shows could have benefited from being a weekly basis, and that's why I like The Mandalorian so much, because I look forward to it, and I hope that even though I've been talking about 6 now 9 episodes coming out together, I hope that the next episode, or the 4th, the 5th, which is the key one, I look forward to it weekly, because I'm excited. I'm looking forward to Friday, because you and I wouldn't have talked like this about these first 2 episodes if it had all come out. We wouldn't have even.
Yeah, it would have just been
not on the podcast necessarily, but generally in messages or we've just been like, oh, did you watch the whole season? And we wouldn't have had time to talk about these 2.
Yeah,
and it gives it more of a buzz, doesn't it? Because it's just not over. It's just gonna roll on for another 8 weeks now. No, 7 weeks.
Do you
numbers, Nick? Screwed ourselves.
Do you think we're going to get some big cameos?
I definitely think we'll see Doctor Strange. I think he's definitely a part of it. Whether he is the one who helps get her out of it, or whether he is the one who is like orchestrating it.
Yeah.
I don't know who else would come in. I mean, I've heard there's rumors that Quicksilver's in it. Not Evan Peters. That's Quicksilver in the.
See, I had heard that.
Fox. I heard. It's what's his name? Who's the guy who plays Quicksilver in the MCU?
Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Aaron Taylor Johnson. Yeah.
Yes.
AKA Kick-Ass. Kick-Ass. Yeah. I've heard Kick-Ass is in it. Not as Kick-Ass as Quicksilver.
As Kick-Ass.
As Kick-Ass. Yeah. What the fuck is going on? I heard he's in it, or he's on the cast sheet anyway. But whether that's just they're just throwing out there to get people talking, I don't know. But I think he'll pop up in it, which would be pretty awesome, considering, most people stay dead, don't they? And don't stay dead. Most people do not ever stay dead in Marvel. But it'd be nice for him to have a cameo, even if it's just for an episode or just a bit. Doctor Strange will be in it, and I don't know. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff that could happen. Black Widow could have shown up, but there's no real link to Scarlet Witch just because she's dead. But it looks like she might have a small part in Loki. Everyone's saying that there's a picture in the Loki trailer that looks just like Black Widow.
I always thought that was the female Loki. Can't remember her name.
Oh yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Everyone just said it looked like Black Widow, and it does kind of look like Black Widow. But I think it's more the background where it looks like she's in the Soul Stone.
Yeah. So I read a rumor the other day for WandaVision.
Okay.
That was Evan Peters as Thingy, as her brother. So they're fucking with the multiverse, and so he appears, and she sort of recognizes him, but it's obviously not, like, she knows it's her brother, but it's not, and there's something seriously wrong there. And I thought that's actually, like, if they went down that route, fair enough. Like, that'd be
I like it because I really like Evan Peters as Quicksilver. That's probably the only saving grace of, like, Days of Future Past was awesome, but Apocalypse was a shit show.
Yeah.
And Dark Phoenix was a shitter show.
Yeah.
So I think he was one of the better bits, although I really like
annoyingly, I think the cast for all of those are pretty good, actually.
The cast is pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah.
And Jennifer Lawrence's Mystique started well, but then it got a bit crap towards the end. But I love James McAvoy as Xavier, and I love Fassbender as Magneto.
Yeah.
We should do an X-Men podcast, Nick.
We totally should. Yeah.
I bloody love X1 and X2. Just great films, aren't they?
Incredible.
They're so good. So good. Yeah, X2. Mind-blowing.
Huge. But yeah, I'd be up for them to do that. I think like if they could introduce the multiverse in WandaVision in some way.
I don't want the X-Men. I don't want that X-Men. I don't want that X-Men in my MCU. I don't want it because it's done. I mean, you could take Hugh Jackman Wolverine for forever, but
I mean they've got Deadpool though.
They've got Deadpool, but Deadpool works easily, doesn't it? Because he could be
he is technically part of that world.
I know he is, but I just think that's done now. I think move on from Trank's Fantastic Four. You move on from Bryan Singer's X-Men and all that stuff. It just feels a bit tainted now and done. And I just think you need to gradually build up. And I think if you were to throw Evan Peters Quicksilver in there, it raises too many questions. But they need to get the Fantastic Four under their belt. And I love the fact that John Watts is director because I really like the Spider-Man films. But I think I know you do too. I know, but I would shy away from it. I would much rather Kick-Ass Quicksilver. It's much easier to call them by their other superhero names.
Yeah,
I think Kick-Ass Quicksilver would be a much better fit.
Because I'd really like the idea if they did it almost like tongue in cheek, in that Evan Peters rocks up and she's like, "Who are you?" and he's like, "I'm your brother." And in the sense of the sitcom, he plays the brother role, but he's not her brother. It's sort of like the audience would be somewhat...
He wouldn't know, would he? Because he doesn't know.
Yeah, I'm more thinking like if he's like a sense of like he's a construct. He's not actually he's not actually Quicksilver. He's just playing her brother in the sitcom. As sort of like a tongue-in-cheek thing. I think it would be
cool.
A nice little nod. Plus, like you say, really like Evan Peters. But yeah, I don't know. I definitely I agree that Doctor Strange has to be in it because it sets up.
I'm sure I read some of the Falcons in it as well. I don't know why. I don't know where I read it either, because this is typical of every podcast where I read something, but I don't know where or when I read it, which could possibly mean I've dreamt it. But I think I saw something about him being in it as well, but that could have been, I don't know. It could have been maybe there was supposed to be something about end credits or something. I have no idea, because that was supposed to come out before. So, or maybe there was an end credits at the end of Falcon and Winter Soldier that led into this. I'm not sure. I didn't read it yet, but I just saw there was someone saying that Paul Bettany said that he was supposed to be the end credits for Endgame.
Yeah, I saw that, and it was supposed to
Wanda was supposed to open a drawer, and Vision was supposed to be in there.
Yeah,
don't know how that makes sense. Or I guess a pocket of the universe or something, and he was there.
Yeah, wasn't it like?
So I would love him. I would love him to be back in the MCU, because I don't think he got enough time actually as an Avenger either. I think they have to build a new team, don't they? They need some powerhouses in there. Obviously, Captain Marvel's likely to be the leader of the Cosmic Avengers, but I assume sounds like he's buggering back off into the Cosmic Universe with the Guardians of the Galaxy. So that they need to assemble a good team around essentially what will be Spider-Man, won't it? And some other guys. It's going to end up like a really weird team, isn't it? It's going to be like Scarlet Witch, Spider-Man, Blade, probably, and some other random Charlie Cox's Daredevil.
Oh my god,
which would be awesome.
What
a team!
It's going to be Marvel R-rated though.
It'd have to be, yeah.
Yeah.
But they're saying that they're saying that he's wrapped his filming now, haven't they? Of
Yeah, I saw that. If he's in
things, or we're going into different territory now. But it's all exciting, everyone.
I think it's just with Wonder Woman. I keep saying Wonder Woman. I think it's because we're
going to do a podcast on Wonder Woman 1984 2 weeks time.
I think WandaVision. I think there's room for it to set up Multiverse of Madness, and I hope it's more than just the final episode. Like, I hope there's bigger hints of it through the next few episodes, and that's kind of where I was thinking, like the Evan Peters thing or whoever could pop up. Andrew Garfield. That would be
Andrew.
Yeah.
I mean, there has to be something, because I mean, Doctor Strange isn't out for a year, is it? Or just over a year and a half, basically.
Yeah. That's the next.
So
besides Black Widow, though, that is the next MCU film, isn't it?
No, there's Black Widow, then there's Shang-Chi, then there's Eternals, then there's Spider-Man 3. Spider-Man 3 comes out before Doctor Strange.
How does that work?
Doesn't it? I'm pretty sure it does.
Oh my god! I always thought it was Doctor Strange before Spider-Man 3, because I was like,
no, I think
gonna set it up with Multiverse of Madness, and then you'll get Spider-Man.
I'm pretty sure Spider-Man 3 comes out at the end of the year, because they're filming that now. They're also filming Doctor Strange 2, but that's on hiatus at the moment because of COVID. Because obviously Shang-Chi's wrapped and is in post-production. Eternals is done and dusted ages ago. So that was supposed to already be out. Black Widow's done and dusted. So those three have to come out first. Because Eternals will set up more of the cosmic stuff, because I think that's essentially going to be a prequel of sorts. Black Widow is a prequel. Shang-Chi is completely different bit. Shang-Chi will probably be about him coming over he'll be part of the Avengers, most likely. And finally about the 10 Rings. Proper.
Crazy. Yeah.
And then I'm pretty sure it's Spider-Man at the end of the year.
That's crazy.
Is it? Have you Googled it?
Yeah, I just checked, and Spidey is due 2021, whereas
and Doctor Strange is
2022.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So, because I'm of the assumption, and I might be wrong, but whatever Scarlet Witch does here, and Doctor Strange, if he's there, I think she's gonna just rip everything apart. And then, because she's having this mental breakdown, and Doctor Strange will potentially, if he's not already there helping, try and get her through it, he's gonna be like, fuck. And then Spider-Man 3 will have a lot of the after effects of this, and Doctor Strange would be trying to fix everything in Multiverse of Madness. But I did hear a rumor, but this is probably not true, that it's Nightmare is the one who is controlling all the Scarlet Witch stuff. He's obviously a huge villain in Doctor Strange. Because he has all those nightmare situations, but then it's not really. It's kind of a nightmare because she's stuck in it, but it's also she's with Vision again. So, but then I don't imagine Nightmare sitting in a lab watching a TV monitor unless he just really wants to watch old school TV shows.
Yeah, because I wondered whether they're going to chuck Mephisto in there.
Maybe.
There were hints to it throughout that first two episodes that I was sort of like, oh, that'd be cool.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
Who knows, Nick? That's why we're all excited about episode 3.
There is a lot they can do. I'm
prepared. I'm prepared for you to be disappointed.
Yeah,
I'm mentally prepared for you.
I think it's just because there's so much potential with it that she's a really interesting character, and I like the fact that there is a version of her where they could take her down the villain route. Yeah. And if grief is the thing that does that, I think that would make her a really interesting character that the MCU hasn't explored before. I feel like I think if this was a film, it would be how I think we spoke about this, like House of M, where she basically has her whole island that she just there. And if this was a film, it would be something like that, where you'd have more major characters involved. But I think this is their version, kind of mixing House of M with the Vision comic, with a couple of things where they've got just a few sub characters, and like you said, there will be a cameo of sorts in some of them. So I think it's going to be good, Nick. I have faith. I'm curious. Put me at that.
Excellent. Is there anything else you want to go into about old WandaVision?
I think that was everything. I can't think of anything. I'm sure
that was everything.
We'll periodically
come back to it. I'm sure we'll talk about it when we're not supposed to talk about it on other podcasts. When we're talking about Wonder Woman, we'll talk about WandaVision.
Yeah, I'll get it right.
So awesome. Well, that was our WandaVision episodes 1 and 2 podcast, which kind of just all blended into one WandaVision podcast, which is what we wanted.
Yeah.
Our next podcast, we're going to talk about what we're looking forward to in 2021, which will be out the following week on wherever you get podcasts. And you can subscribe and share this podcast with those you love and cherish, and Marvel fans and non-Marvel fans. And share the love. Thank you very much. And it was a pleasure, Nick.
Always good, dude. Always good.
All right. Always. Cool. Take care.
Catch you ready. Bye.
Bye.